Right now, we're going to focus on helping you identify key individuals or companies that are traditionally the ones that learn first of a local couple's engagement. We're going to give you some very simple marketing intelligence strategies that will allow you to target couples weeks, if not months, before your competition even knows they're engaged. I recently read an article in a national wedding publication that reported that immediately after becoming engaged, the first call a bride makes is either to her mother or a member of her family. But the next call is to her local church or synagogue. Why is that? Well, it's to check availability around the tentative dates the couple is hoping to get married on. You see, this year, as always, the largest block of weddings will take place springtime, early summer, and the fall. What motivates that early call to the church or synagogue is because these places have only a limited number of dates and desirable times to offer an engaged couple. In fact, it's often a mad scramble right after the Christmas and New Year's holidays to lock in that perfect date and time. That's why I strongly recommend that you begin building relationships with your local clergy and the managers of non-religious wedding venues. They can be an invaluable source of leads on which couples in your market have just become engaged. Now let's focus for the short time being on forming partnerships with local clergy and their staff. Now the two most common scenarios couples are going to encounter are, one, a large church or synagogue that has in place a full-time wedding coordinator. These individuals frequently manage all the details of the multitude of weddings that are going to occur throughout the year. The coordinator is frequently a volunteer, one who is usually drastically underpaid and overworked. The second scenario is smaller to mid-sized churches. That's where the pastor, the rabbi, or a member of the clergy oversees the management of all the weddings. The single most important piece of advice I can provide you regarding working and partnering with local clergy is to understand how important it is to build a strong, trusting relationship. It's more important when it comes to clergy to be perceived as a partner versus a supplier. Why? Well, the clergy's objective is to work with outside organizations and individuals who can help them provide their congregation with a lovely wedding experience. Establishing a professional relationship, one built on trust, will generate more future referrals than anything else in marketing you can do. I was privileged to co-author a book entitled Speaking of Success with the great Stephen Covey. He would often tell us when we were writing that book that trust is the one thing that strengthens everything. Trust affects the quality of every business relationship, every communication, every project, and every venture. So building long-term business relationships with local clergy will take time, but wow, do they pay off. In addition to weddings, your local clergy can also introduce you to business leaders, club presidents, association executives, etc. When you receive an endorsement or a recommendation for a member of the clergy, it brings with it implied trust, what marketers coincidentally call the halo effect. The job of establishing rapport and trust with a couple is far easier when you are introduced to them by a member of the clergy or someone on the church's staff. Do not hesitate for a moment to reach out to clergy. Why? Because you've got a really unique skill set. You and your company can be a great deal of help to them down the road. For example, you understand sales, marketing, advertising, and social media. These are skills that could be challenging for many busy clergy. As a partner, you can help them raise money, manage promotions, find sponsors, attract advertisers. In short, you can be a coach and a consultant, not just another wedding vendor. Your company most likely has the ability to trade out. Now, why is that so important? Because almost every synagogue, church, and nonprofit wedding venue has to raise funds. They frequently do this with a series of year-round promotions, raffles, sweepstakes, and silent auctions. For example, if you work for a wedding venue, a hotel, a resort, a restaurant, or any travel company, you may have access to both products and services that you can easily trade out in exchange for first access to all wedding leads. For example, a dinner in your restaurant, a free night stay based on space availability, free meeting space. You can provide loyalty points if your brand has a frequency program. Needless to say, local clergy will benefit from a strong relationship with you, so don't hesitate to reach out. Now remember, some clergy may have difficulty asking for it, so be proactive in offering all the different ways you can help. Now, let's focus specifically on those churches and synagogues that employ a full-time wedding coordinator. An initial call to the synagogue or church will get you the coordinator's information, and it couldn't be easier than Sales Prospecting 101. I recommend that during your first conversation with this coordinator to determine if that person is very active in other projects at the church or synagogue. For example, do they sit on other committees, serve on the board, volunteer for fundraisers? As your relationship grows, you will be able to help them with all these other activities. For this reason alone, they may be more receptive to providing you with first crack at the wedding referrals versus all the other vendors and suppliers that approach them. Why? Well, once again, you're in a position to help them with the many projects at their church and synagogue. Trade outs can be one of the most powerful tools at your disposal. But remember, always diplomatically tie your help to the number of leads that are provided and booked. If the wedding coordinator is paid, it is highly likely that their salary may be modest, to say the least. At some point, you may wish to diplomatically introduce a financial incentive. As a volunteer, they may also be involved in other organizations outside of the church or synagogue. You could also offer to be of service to help them with those interests. Frequently, wedding coordinators are very, very busy, especially in the spring, early summer, and fall. So position yourself as a partner, a person who can easily help make their life easier. Never fear, they will understand that you are a business person, that your help and support is dependent on them supplying you with referrals. By the way, these long-term relationships just may serve you for your entire career. Why? Because marketing to churches, clergy, and their employees is about playing the long game, but one that can be lucrative and personally satisfying. 2 decades ago, as a young sales rep, I provided a member of the clergy with a 3-night hotel stay for a fundraiser. 21 years later, he is still sending me leads on a regular basis. The ROI on that trade out was about 10,000 to 1. Let's switch our focus to smaller churches where the pastor or another member of the clergy is involved in managing weddings. Your objective is the same. Position yourself as a partner, a consultant, even a coach. As a sales professional, you've got skills and talents any church or synagogue can use. Your ability to trade out food and beverage, sleeping rooms, travel, function space, that's going to serve you. All a member of the clergy has to do is provide you with a series of wedding leads, referrals, or recommendations at book, and they can take advantage of your remarkable skill set. When you receive that first lead, please take my advice. Never let more than 12 hours go by without profoundly thanking and acknowledging the rabbi, the pastor, or the wedding coordinator. Why? Behavior that is rewarded is behavior that is repeated. I used to work at a full-service hotel that hosted a scheduled weekly reception for all of our guests. The property was less than a mile from a large Army base. Now, this base had an historic interdenominational chapel, and every weekend, this chapel hosted several weddings. I made a deal with the civilian wedding coordinator. Every single week that our hotel received a minimum of 20 room nights or a minimum amount of food and beverage as a result of one of their weddings, the base commander could invite and host his entire staff of 12 senior officers at our reception. The commanding officer thought this was a great idea and quietly persuaded his men and the civilian coordinator to refer as much business to our hotel as possible. By the way, due to the rapidly aging of the World War II generation and Korean veterans, we actually ended up booking more full-time, full-rated business from funerals versus weddings. Now, all we had to do was host a small group of the commander's operational staff, all wonderful men and women who we would have gladly invited anyway. Trade out is a remarkable negotiation tool.